Good morning, my name is Umberto Mucci. Today is April 28th, the 50th day of Italy on lockdown. Even if there's nothing to celebrate, happy 50th day to Italy. This is We the ItaliaNews, a daily video broadcast regarding Italy on lockdown under the coronavirus crisis. Once again continues the descent of the daily number of Italians hospitalized for coronavirus, both generally and in ICU. For the first time since March 16, people in intensive care units are below 2,000. And also the daily positive cases are back to drop. Yesterday we also had the lowest percentage growth of positive cases ever, 0.9%. The number of coronavirus deaths has risen again. Yesterday it was 333, more than the day before, but still significantly less than the average of the last month. To underline how the situation of the epidemic has changed, beyond the absolute numbers that explain only up to a certain point, it is indicative to compare the situation of March 16 with that of April 27. The 1,851 people admitted to intensive care on March 16 represented 8% of the patients at that time. Almost 1 in 10 ended up in intensive care. Today there are less than 2% of patients in intensive care. It is a symptom that the situation in the healthcare system is more under control, that the therapies that have been developed are more effective, that the disease is discovered and treated earlier, avoiding degeneration. If today we had 8% of patients in intensive care, it would be more than 8,000 people, a level not sustainable for Italian healthcare. Every country had a plan to fight a possible pandemic. These are reports that until 3 months ago no government would ever have thought it would have to implement. The Italian one, to which Spallanzani Hospital also collaborated, was 55 pages long and predicted in the most catastrophic scenario that if a country had not chosen to go into lockdown, the death would have been between 600,000 and 800,000. Italy is the fourth nation in the world that makes the most swabs in absolute numbers and is the second only to the United Arab Emirates, for numbers of swabs made compared to the population. In the beginning very few were made and it was a big mistake. Then everything changed and the region that best interpreted this change was Veneto. Italy has quadrupled its swabs in a month and today we are at 2.9 per 100 inhabitants. There is another interesting fact, and it explains why there are more potentially infected people in our country, much more. It's the ratio between swabs made and contagions identified. Italy has 1 infected for every 8.9 swabs. This ratio is still high, although it is improving. 11 days ago it was 1 for every 6.8. If this progression were statistically applicable to the whole population, it would mean that in the country there are 7 million infected. And all scientists agree that more or less this is likely to be the case, 7 million contagion. Experts tell us that we must forget, at least until the vaccine arrives, the typical rush hour scenes. From May 4, crowded wagons, packed buses, people staffed on the station platforms waiting for trains will no longer have to be there. Rush hour will also have to disappear. We cannot afford it because of the coronavirus. We will have to learn to live differently, even the time of return to work, build a new normality. Or at least that is the difficult goal that the government has set, inviting us to use public transport only in necessary cases. Otherwise we can go on foot or by bicycle or by car. If you really have to travel on buses and trains, it is better to buy tickets in electronic format, frequently sanitize your hands, always keep your distance from the other people, and finally wear the mask. On trains, there will be alternate seats and no catering, dispenser with disinfectant gel. In each car, difference between entry and exit. On buses, trams and subways, there will be signage for seats and standing properly away, differentiated doors, maximum capacity of vehicles to be limited to half of before. Besides, there will be differentiated times of entry and exit of offices and opening and closing of shops and probably schools. This will be the new normality in Italy, at least up until there will be a vaccine. But probably these things I'm telling you more or less will happen in the United States too when you will arrive at your phase 2. So stay home, stay healthy, stay safe. Please do not underestimate this virus. I'll see you tomorrow. This was We the ItaliaNews. My name is Umberto Mucci. Ciao from Rome on lockdown.